Erased was easily the most popular anime from the winter 2016 lineup. Some loved it and some hated it. I tried to stay as neutral as possible until I could finish watching it weekly and then rewatch it for the review. Erased is a supernatural murder mystery with elements of drama and suspense. The story follows Satoru, a 29-year-old man who stumbles upon a serial killer in the act, and he attempts to basically expose his identity in order to stop his future murders. However, the twist with Erased is that Satoru is capable of time travel. This is a magic ability, and yes, technically is a reality-bending ability which comes from Satoru's own mind. Unfortunately, Erased falls far short of having any sort of proper exposition to inform the viewers on the details and limitations of Satoru's magic ability. There is a few context clues which we can gather, but still, even then, it's basically just a shallow plot device which only serves to convenience Satoru in a beneficial manner. As far as we can tell, this ability allows Satoru to travel backwards in time to prevent a nearby accidental death. Satoru doesn't have total control over his ability. Basically, he senses when a upcoming death is near. He looks around for clues in order to go backwards in time just a little bit and save them from this death. But whenever he goes back, if he goes back further than a few moments, it basically places him into that stage of life that he was during those events. So basically, if he went back 19 years, then he would be just a 10-year-old boy. This may have you asking the question of why would he want to go back 19 years and prevent murders which are that old, especially when you consider the fact that this is an ability he's had his entire life, and he tells us that he's done this numerous times, also in episode 1. In the first episode of Erased, Satoru and his mother learn a bit too much about a serial killer as they inadvertently come across one of his potential murders coming up, which causes him to actually stalk them and murder Satoru's mother. Within his apartment there, Satoru comes home, sees his mother laying there, and is blamed for her murder because he's at the scene of the crime with blood on his hands. He runs from the police, and then that's when his magic ability kicks in. Instead of being sent back about 20 minutes to prevent his mother's death, Satoru was sent back nearly 20 years, not only to prevent her murder, but also to prevent the upcoming Reign of Terror. Although we're introduced to Satoru as a 29-year-old man, the majority of the story is set within his past, and as you would expect, 10-year-old Satoru's life is filled with school and friends. Despite retaining his memories and knowing how the future unfolds because he lived in it, Satoru quickly becomes complacent, as if he almost forgets the fact that he held his mother's dead body a few days earlier. This chilling reminder becomes more prominent when we see the 29-year-old Satoru becoming close with the 10-year-old Hina Zuki and even developing feelings for her. There were some people, from my experience, that were supportive of this and felt it as if it were basically two cute 10-year-olds having this cute little romance with each other, and some people even wanted to see them kiss, despite the fact that Satoru on numerous occasions had said to himself via thought that he is still a 29-year-old man, despite the fact that he may look like he is 10, as well as many other characters who have said, Satoru, you are much more mature than you look.
それともぐちょぐちょぐちょぐちょぐちょぐちょぐちょ
しっかりしろ29歳。まあ俺もガキには。
私邪魔だべか。
出た。まあ俺もガキには。
Satoru, who are you trying to convince?
Looks like you brought enough stuff to move in.
Yes.
Why don't you have a seat there?
On the ground!
The killer himself is a criminal mastermind who's gotten away with every murder, and many of those he's actually pinned the blame onto somebody else just by framing them. This left many of the show's viewers, as well as myself, thinking about all of the clues that we're seeing and trying to uncover for ourselves who the killer actually is. And those of us who did that are probably the people who never watched the openings. You know, I listened to them, but I never actually sat down and watched them, because those are always the times that I was just preparing myself and moving all the windows around and everything and just getting settled to not move for the next 20 minutes. But it actually turns out that in each of these openings, they reveal the killer's identity, even going back as far as episode 1. Near the end of the first episode, when Satoru's mother is killed, we see the serial killer as he's walking down the stairs. He looks Satoru dead in his eyes, and he continues on. We see what he's wearing, and we remember that. We remember his umbrella and that he always hides his face. However, the opening of episode 1 and every other opening for the rest of the series actually contains the killer's face. In that same outfit, it reveals everything. If you want to watch Erased and not be spoiled by its opening, then you need to skip it. But you need to be careful when you do so, because he actually appears near the end of the opening, and I can imagine somebody accidentally landing on him and seeing his face when they're trying to skip through. Despite the show's flaws, which I've mentioned, it actually does a few things right, such as Satoru is fairly well characterized within the first episode. He has minor strengths and minor weaknesses. He has his hobbies, he has his goals as well, and the only problem that I have with his character is with his development, as he slowly becomes this stereotypical genius protagonist over time. As for the other characters, Satoru's mom is a total MILF, but in all seriousness here, she left a positive impression despite the fact that she had such little screen time in the show compared to many of the other characters. Many of Satoru's friends were children, which means that they require much less characterization, so all of his friends, I thought they were written fairly well. The one character that I felt stood out amongst everyone else in the crowd here was Hina Zuki, and I know I've already gotten some hate and I've already gotten dislikes from just calling the Hina Zuki-Satoru interaction exactly how I saw it, but those were times that were actually few and far between, and I would say that those moments don't actually define their friendship with each other. Hina Zuki is a character that has great external struggles, and she develops much more than anyone else and becomes a much more rounded character through the story. All in all, I think Erased is an anime which you're either going to love or hate depending on how many other anime you've seen in your past, and also if everything that I've said so far still makes you want to go and watch Erased, then I would recommend reading the manga, because the issues that I had and the issues that many other people had with the way things were explained in the second half of the story, which I won't get into detail about, were actually explained much better in the manga. Not that I've read it, and not because people tell me simply that the manga is better. People love to just drop that bomb when you're right there, but I've actually had people explain to me and give me details about how certain scenes within the manga were unfolded a bit differently and explained much better than in the anime, and from hearing that, I would have to say, if you want to experience the story, the manga might be your best bet. It's just a shame to see an anime like this with poor execution, because it's got such beautiful presentation to it. They beautifully articulate the characters' emotions with their expressions, and also the backgrounds are well detailed as well, and considering the fact that this is a anime with time travel and characters go forwards and backwards in time, you can actually see a difference in the era that they're living in, even though it is only a 19-year difference. It is there. The only complaint that I have about the presentation would be something that is closer tied to the story itself. There's just too much supernatural symbolism here that doesn't really add to anything. They're just red herrings, which give the appearance of depth and doesn't really add anything to the story. There are the red eyes when someone is about to kill someone. Their eyes will magically just turn red all of a sudden. There are the blue butterflies, which Satoru will see when somebody's about to die. And then there's also the thing with the spider web, which I can't tell you what that's tied to simply because we learn about that later on, but it's still there unnecessarily. They're red herrings, and I think we could have did without them. As for the voice acting, I watched this with a Japanese audio. I have no complaints with this because everyone acted out their characters' roles and filled them with emotion. My final score for Erased is a 6 out of 10. Honestly speaking here, Erased was saved by its beautiful presentation, you know, the art, the animation, the music, and the sound as well. I think that the story would have been much better if they focused a lot more on the mystery elements and not so much the time travel. Oh yeah, and if they didn't spoil the killer's identity within the first episode, that'd be nice. If you've seen or read Erased, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.